All right, let's return now to our top story this hour. That is the health of the Venezuelan president and, of course, the political uncertainty now facing the country. Joining us live from New York is the Latin America analyst Vanessa Neumann. Good to have you with us on the programme. It looks increasingly unlikely that President Chávez will be there to take the oath of office on January the 10th. Talk us through some of the scenarios that will be happening behind the scene of some sort of transition should the worst happen.
Good evening, Felicity. Thank you for having me on. Well, constitutionally, what should happen is if the president does not turn up in Caracas to be sworn in before the National Assembly, then the president of the National Assembly, who at the moment is a guy called Diosdado Cabello, who's a very loyal Chavista, very radical, real strong man, it should take over. Now, the National Assembly has elections tomorrow, just to complicate things further, and then we'll know who the president of the National Assembly is then. I expect it will be Diosdado Cabello again. So Diosdado Cabello should take over for 30 days, hold elections in 30 days, and the anointed successor or the candidate who would run in Chávez's place is his current vice president and foreign minister, Nicolás Maduro, who Chávez himself declared is his anointed successor and would be the candidate. So that looks all right. What's all that's going on is nobody has actually seen Chávez since December 10th, since he left for Cuba. There are no images of him, and the parts of the National Assembly, members of the opposition, want to go to Cuba to see what Chávez looks like, is feeling like, and whether he's still ruling, because there are rumors ranging from everything that he's had a tracheotomy, which apparently we do know, that he's on life support. Then there was that he's in a coma. So there are some rumors that he has already died. So they run the gamut. So the country's racked by uncertainty, which is really not the way a democracy should run. And in fact, if he is in such a bad state, Nicolás Maduro should already have taken over until January 10th. So there seems to be some sort of scheming, I think, going on to keep Nicolás Maduro from taking power, because the PSUV, which is the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, is a really very fractured coalition that has been kept largely together by the enormous charisma of President Hugo Chávez. Without Chávez there to exert his enormous cult of personality and his power to keep it all together, there will be infighting. And I think we're already seeing the effects of a lot of that infighting.
So what you're saying is, should the worst happen and Chávez die, his legacy might be a complicated one because there isn't anybody really who can take over and unite the factions.
That's exactly right. His legacy will be complicated. I have believed for many years that Chavismo is there to stay in Venezuela as a political movement and the PSUV as a political party. Certainly, I don't think, like, you know, Eva Perón is long gone, and yet you still have Peronismo in Argentina, for instance. So I think it's there to stay. But it won't have the power, it won't have the draw without the personality of Chávez, and it will fracture, so it will be problematic. However, you do have a lot of people who are in significant positions of power, and who some of them have been up to no good, major criminal activity. They have been indicted on drug trafficking, and having connections with Hezbollah and the FARC guerrilla group, terrorist group, and drug trafficking. So, you know, they're making, those guys who are bad and have been making $1 million a month are not really going to want to leave power very easily. So that will lead to a free-for-all. So I think it will be rather complicated. That having been said, I think that, you know, why Chávez rose to power will remain, and there will be those who will continue to support the movement for decades to come.
The opposition, of course, as you say, is demanding to know just how well or ill Hugo Chávez is. But how easy is it for the opposition to take advantage of this situation, particularly if these elections are going to be called and have to be held within 30 days?
Well, that's a very interesting situation. That's a very interesting point you brought up, Felicity, because what happens is, you know, I argued in a recent article I wrote for the Weekly Standard, which is sort of the American version of the Spectator kind of thing, that actually holding elections sooner rather than later would be better for the Chavistas. Because what I said before is the scenario that's envisioned by the Constitution. However, just last week I had a Chavista parliamentarian tell me that it was possible that there's wiggle room in the Constitution that they might swear in Chávez later by flying the Supreme Court to the Venezuelan embassy in Havana and swearing him in there, kind of away from the public eyes, which in my view is unacceptable in a contemporary democracy. So we don't, but if the Chavistas try and push out elections by finding a way to say that Chávez is still alive and swearing him in and doing it that way, it really only benefits the opposition, because the opposition needs time to raise money. We know who the presumptive candidate is, but he would need time to campaign. That would be Enrique Capriles Radonsky, who was the candidate against Chávez in October's elections, excuse me. So it only benefits the longer the Chavistas fight amongst each other and delay the swearing in of Chávez, the more it helps the opposition, which is an ironic situation to be in. Of course, the opposition is very afraid that they don't want to be seen to be hoping for the death of Chávez. And by the way, I think it's wrong for anybody to hope for the death of their president, well, the death of anybody, that he is, after all, the president. And also, he has such a huge cult of personality that there's a fear of turning him into a martyr. So all of this is entering the opposition's calculation. However, I think that the opposition should be, just speaking strategically, should be stronger about demanding that in a democracy, the people have a right to know more about their president. Whether you're for him or you're against him, it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you are on. He is your president, and you have to know whether you are actually being properly ruled by him or not. And the Venezuelan people have a right to that.
Really good to talk to you. Vanessa Neumann joining us there from New York. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for having me, Felicity. Good night.